Hi, students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian, and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Budapest here in the heart of Europe. I hope everybody has had a fantastic week and is looking forward to a wonderful weekend. Hi, Chabi. Hi, Pranjay. Oppo F9. Sajida. Good to see many students already in class. This lesson is brought to you by aehelp.com for all of your academic IELTS needs. aehelp.com. And if you are learning for the general version of the test, check us out at gieltshelp.com. I'll show you both of those web portals real quick while we wait for some more students to join in. Usually there are about 150 or so watching at any moment in time, so lots of peers to help you out with today's lesson. The websites look like this. This is the academic. Click that big red button to join. We have over 100 hours of video lessons, 6 original practice exams, and a fully interactive course for your phone, tablet, PC. For the general version of the exam, check us out here. Green background, click that big red button to join us there. Students, you can get our app, Academic IELTS Help. It's the Academic IELTS app from Android, iOS, Google Play, Apple App Store. You can link your app to the website so you're learning from one account. And you can send me an email, Adrian, A-D-R-I-A-N, at aehelp.com if you have any questions. So right now, again, focus is task 1. We are looking at a pie chart question. We will work on that together. And tomorrow we will have a question and answer session for our members. I think, Barendra, you had a question at the end of the last class that I didn't catch. Just remember it for tomorrow, and I will gladly answer that question for you. It was something about the difference between the academic and general version of the test. So there will be that question answer session tomorrow, and then there will be a speaking class for everyone. All right, students, let's get into today's question for task 1. We're going to do this together. I will teach you how to answer task 1 effectively, strategically, so you get those higher band scores. If you're a general student, task 1 for you will be letter writing. So letter writing, it's not the same as this, okay? Just keep that in mind. All right, so here we go. Task 1, you should spend about 20 minutes on this task. The writing section is 1 hour. Task 1 is 20 minutes. Task 2 is 40 minutes. Task 1 is worth 1/3 of your total mark. Task 2 is worth 2/3 of your total mark. So don't spend more than 20 minutes on task 1. Okay, learn to respond to task 1. The charts below show data for numbers of residents in U.S. households in 3 years. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and making comparisons where relevant. Write a minimum of 150 words. That means, students, that you need to write at least 150 words for task completion. If you do not write 150 words, it's considered an incomplete task, and you automatically will lose 1 band score, okay? So make sure you complete the task. Your goal should be anywhere from 180 to 220 words, okay? If you're a high-level English user, go for closer to 220 words, all right? If you're around a band 6, 5, 7, go for 180 words. Do not aim for 150 because you do not want to lose that band score. Samara, yes, they count the words, absolutely. They count up 3, 4 lines, multiply the number of lines that you write, and they draw an average. So they will know roughly if it's 150 words or more. If it's very close, they'll count it word by word. Absolutely. Okay. All right. So careful about that. Okay. Reach that minimum. Aim for 180 words. Okay. All right. So here we go. Here are the pie charts that we're looking at. So composition of U.S. households by size. We have 1970, 1990, 2015. When people are writing task 1 for pie charts, what is the number one mistake? What do you think? And I see this all the time. Okay. Hi, Arjun. Long time no see. Viral, thank you for the compliment on the shirt. So what do you think is the number one mistake when people are reporting on pie charts? There's a very common mistake that students make, and I just want to highlight that before we begin today so I don't see many students writing this. It's not over-reporting, it's not copying, it's not under length. It's not the past tense. The number one mistake that students make is they write about pie charts like they're writing for line graphs, okay? So the numero uno, the number one mistake when students write about pie charts is they use vocabulary and description as if they were writing for line graphs. I'll give you an example, okay? So many students, what they will do is they'll look at this first pie chart, 1970, and they'll see that this is 20.9% for one person. They'll look at 1990, and they'll see that this is 10.4%, and then they'll write a sentence like this. They'll go, between 1970 and 1990, single resident homes decreased by 10%. Okay? So many students will do this. They'll say between 1970 and 1990, single resident homes decreased by 10%. Now, that is an incorrect sentence. Why? So this would be okay for a line graph if we saw that data in the line graph, but that is absolutely false statement for these pie charts. Why? Or even if we say from 1992 or from 1972. Why? Why is that a false statement? So here we have 1970, it's 20.9%. Here we have 1990, it's 10.9%. Why is it false to say that between 1970 to 1990, it decreased? Yes, very good, Paranjay. Very good, Pachu. There's no trend line. It's not continuous. It's not correct. We don't know what happens in 1980. Okay? Doesn't show that, right? Maybe 1980 is 30%. Who knows, right? You cannot report information that you don't see. In business or in university, that would be considered a major mistake, okay? You don't see that. You only see this year and you only see this year. You do not see continuity of the line, okay? So you have to be very, very, very careful. Yeah, M. Hussein. And many of you that study statistics know this, okay? All right, so careful not to write like a line graph for pie charts. That's my first advice to you, okay? If you want to get a good band score, pay careful attention to what vocabulary you're using. Many times students use line graph vocabulary for pie charts, for bar charts, for tables, and that's just not correct. Learn the correct vocabulary for each type of graph, okay? That you can do on our website if you are, you can even do it as a free member. So even in the free version of the website, you can see the writing section. So make sure to learn the correct vocabulary and information reporting for each type of graph. It's different for each, okay? All right. So now we're going to begin the overview. So task 1 has 3 parts, okay? Task 1 of the academic. Actually, task 1 of the general usually has 3 parts also, but they're different. So task 1 has 3 parts. The 3 parts are, especially for those of you who are going for a band 8-9, are the overview, the analysis, or analyses for plural, and the summary. Okay, a good task 1 response will have those 3 elements. Okay, so for the overview, okay, you should do what? And I think some of our members and regular viewers know this. So the overview should include what information? Jitendra will describe what sentences you need for pie charts in this lesson. Okay, so follow through the lesson, Jitendra, and you will see what kind of sentences work for pie charts. Maxime says, describe the most obvious information. Yeah, because it's an overview, right, Maxime? And even before that, paraphrase with details. Thank you, Pachu. So Pachu says, paraphrase the question with more detail. That's one sentence. Okay. And then your next sentence is describe the most obvious feature. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. Here is the original question again. The charts below show data for numbers of residents in U.S. households in 3 years. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features. So paraphrase this part of the question and give more detail. Do that now, viewers. So paraphrase the question. Look at the graph. I'll show you the graph again. Here it is. So go ahead, paraphrase that question and give more details using this picture. Okay. Happy Singh is very quick out of the box. I have a feeling Happy Singh prepared for this class or was doing this from the beginning, which is fantastic. Good for you, Singh. So Singh says, the given 3 pie charts demonstrate the proportion of statistics for amounts of citizenship in the United States domestic during the years of 1970, 90, and 2015. Okay, Sing, a little careful. It's not citizenship. It's the number of people in a house. So it's 1 to 5 people per house, right? It's not citizenship. So careful. Paranjay, how many pie charts, Paranjay? It's 3 pie charts, right? So the 3 pie charts indicate the composition by size of domestic establishments in the United States in the years 1970, 1990, and 2015. Very good, Paranjay. One more detail that you can add, aside from 3 pie charts, is the number of people in those domestic establishments from 1 to 5. Otherwise, very good. Okay, it's a nice high level, clear grammatically accurate response. Hi, Eugen. Welcome to the class. Okay. Kulwinder says the given charts, okay, the 3 given pie charts, Kulwinder, give information about the number of inhabitants of U.S. households in 3 years, namely 1970, 90, and 2015. Very good. Okay. Students, tell your reader how many pie charts you're looking at. All right, don't forget about that. So here we go for the first sentence. These 3 pie charts, refer to them directly. Not given, these 3 pie charts, right? These 3 pie charts depict the number of inhabitants from 1 to 5 per household in the United States in the years 1970, 1970, 1990, and 2015. Okay, so that's your first sentence. Now, this is where many students make their first mistake, writing like a line graph. They'll go from 1970 to 2015. No, we don't have all of that data. We only have 3 years, okay? So it's not from 1970 to 2015. It's in the years 1970, 90, and 2015. Especially for those of you who are business students or businessmen and women, be very careful how you talk about pie charts, because if you're looking for investors in your company and you talk about pie charts like you're talking about line graphs, you might see some of your investors stand up and walk out of the meeting. So careful, okay? All right. So, Parmjeet, you can use some passive voice, but you should focus on active voice in academic essays, okay? In this case, the 3 pie charts depict, okay, actively. Yeah, Hariom, you can absolutely write commas in the overview, and commas are quite useful in task 1 because you're using a lot of description. And when you're doing descriptive expository writing, commas are frequent. Hariom, Thakur, that's a good question. Okay. All right. So next sentence is the most observable detail. Okay. Li Ying says, good afternoon, Adrian. Just want to say thank you. I got my IELTS results today. I got 7.5. Thank you very much for your guidance. You're absolutely a brilliant teacher. Li Ying, congratulations on your awesome score. I'm happy to have been of help. Send us a testimonial to my email. We would love to have you suggest us to other students. Thank you for coming back and saying a thank you. I appreciate that. It's students like you that inspire me and my staff to keep going. So thanks, Li Ying, for sharing. I always appreciate that, viewers, when somebody comes back and shares their success story. Super cool. Okay. All right. So next part of the overview is the most observable feature. The most observable feature of the graph. What is that? You don't need to look at the data, so don't look at the little details. Just look at what pops out. Boom, like what's the biggest? What is like shwabam? Okay. What is the feature that jumps out at us immediately? Okay. M. Hussein says 4 people. It's not 4 people. I think Ajita Jyoti, our member, has the right idea here. The 2 people, yeah. It's this big red slice right there. Yeah, that big red slice just jumps right out at us. It's definitely the most chunky piece of the pie in all 3 of these years. And that's the red one. That's 2 people. Okay. So don't use colors, by the way. In a lot of practice materials, you'll see colors. And I believe in the computer-based version, you can see colors. But in the paper-based version, they don't like printing in color. It's expensive. So they'll use like lines or dots or something. So just say the slice that represents 2 people households, okay? So create that sentence. Kulwinder is on top of it. Good job, Kulwinder. So Kulwinder says, yeah, I thought that was maybe a typo, Hussein. You're pretty good with those usually. So Kulwinder says, immediately, it is clear that single persons had the most significant portion of the household among the 3 years. Kulwinder, really careful with information mistakes. You'll lose band scores, okay? It's not single person. It's dual person or 2 person, okay? So it's 2 person household. Single person is blue, okay? That's blue, all right? That's this one here. This is purple. I know the color's a little bit similar. Purple is the 5 person, okay? 5 people or 5 plus people. So the big red slice is 2 people, okay? All right, so let's write that. Let's write that sentence. So at first glance, with pie charts at first glance is a good expression to use because it really is first glance. Like I just go boop with my eyes, I look at it, and right away I can see that the 3 big slices are those red ones representing 2 people households, okay? So at first glance, it is clear that the largest proportion in each year is represented by 2 person households. Okay? So that's it. And one of our members, I think, was asking, how do I write for pie charts? So these are some key words to focus in on. Proportion, represented, okay? All right. So, getting over a cold. Hopefully I don't lose my voice. Paranjay says, overall, dual occupancy households had the majority of the proportion over the given years. I would say in the given years, Paranjay. In the given years is a little bit better preposition than over, okay? But it's good. Paranjay, dual occupancy household. It's a really nice expression there, all right? Happy Singh says, at first glance, it can be observed. You have to use passive there, Happy Singh. It can be observed that the majority of percentage in any given period is 2-member households. Okay, so a little bit of correction there, Singh, to make it clearer. Tuguldur says, overall, households with 2 members was the majority in all 3 years, not the trend, Tuguldur. I wouldn't say trend. Trend is, again, something that's better used for either line graphs or bar graphs, Tuguldur. I would say the majority, okay? Majority would be a good word, all right? Okay, not bad, not bad. Zainab says, at first glance, 2 people residences had a more significant percentage in all 3 years. Zainab, that's good. The 2 people, you want to hyphenate because 2 people can become one adjective here. So when you write 2 people in this case, Zainab, you want to write it like this. 2 people households or residences. Okay, that's because 2 people becomes a single adjective for households. Okay, that's for everyone. Hopefully that's clear. All right, good. So that's my overview. I'm going to just grab my overview and place it a little bit closer to the graph. Okay, I'm going to put it underneath. And now, what comes after? What do I do next? Paranja, you hyphenate a word when the two words create one word, one adjective. Usually it's one adjective or one concept. If the two words together make one concept, then you hyphenate it. Okay? All right. What do I do next? What's my next step? So far, so good. Okay. Ajita says, analyze it. Take a look at it. Analyze it. What do I do, Ajita, in my analysis? So I write my body paragraph 1. That's right. It's my analysis. That's next. Absolutely. You're correct. So body 1. And by the way, viewers, this isn't like a special strategy that I'm making up. This is standard expository writing when you're describing graphs and charts. This is the same technique that you use in university or college, okay? If you want good band scores on the IELTS exam, learn to do it correctly from the start. There's a lot of crazy ideas out there about how to do these essays. Don't get too fancy or don't get distracted. Just learn standard expository essay writing, the same that any professor expects in college or university. So body 1 are the analyses. Okay. And in the analyses, Sheng Hung says, mark the obvious 4 to 6 points that you're going to describe. Huang, you scored a band 9. Fantastic. Good for you. Impressive. Thanks for coming back and sharing that with us. Okay, so let's do that. All right. So here is here are our 3 pie charts. What's my point number 1? What is my first point of comparison in my analysis? What should I write about? Just keep it simple. You can answer me in one word here. So again, this is two person family homes. This one is 1 person, 5 person. Okay. What do I do? I wouldn't necessarily go year by year. I think that the actual data that we're reporting on, which are the number of people, it's a little bit better. Okay. So C.S. Murad says, probably you want to describe the 2-person in more detail, the largest proportion in more detail. Arij agrees, and I agree with Arij and Murad. Absolutely. This would be my point number 1. Okay, so 28.9%, 32.3%, 33.6%. What is that? So in human language, 2-person homes make up what percentage or what part of household occupancy in the United States? Okay, so this would be my point 1. Let me make that a little bit clearer for you, actually. Probably see what I'm doing there. So this would be my first point for description in my analysis. Okay. It's great. And what is that? So 28.9%, 32%, 33%. So Yash says it's quite similar. Yeah, Yash, I agree. And how much is that? So those percentages of the whole, so of all of the people surveyed, it's 1/3, right? Roughly 1/3. So it's roughly 1/3. 1/3 can be hyphenated because it creates one concept. Okay. All right. So that's my point number 1. What's my point number 2? So point number 1 is 2-person households. That's the most obvious feature that I discussed. Intense creations, good luck on your exam tomorrow. By the way, I know many people are writing exams tomorrow, so good luck to all of you. Okay, so what is my second point? I wouldn't, Sandeep, I would not mix 2 and 1. Definitely not. Abhishek, the 1 and 2 do not rise in in the given years, they increase, yes. So it's okay, but I wouldn't mix them. I would keep those separate. Okay. So definitely the 1-person home. So this would be my second point. Okay. And we'll talk more about that. So it goes 17%, 24%, 28%. Okay. And then probably my third point would be 5+ people. Okay. That would be my third point for comparison. My fourth point would be maybe this one here, the 3-person, and my last point, my fifth point would be this one. These ones don't change all that much. Okay. There's a slightly less in these years, but they don't change much. Okay, good. So we have our points. Okay, those are our points for comparison. Now we can write the actual sentences. So go ahead, students, and compose your sentence for this 2-person home. And I've given you the vocabulary to start you off. It's roughly 1/3 of the total. Okay, roughly 1/3 of the total. So write the first sentence, okay, of the analysis. And I'm going to do the same. Try to remember these numbers so I can erase this so you can see the writing clearly, okay? All right, let's do it together. So looking at the 3 years in more detail. Dual occupancy. I loved that vocabulary used by Paranjay. That was a really nice application of vocabulary, Paranjay. So looking at the 3 years in more detail, dual occupancy homes made up roughly 1/3 of all residences in the US in these years. All right, that's my point number 1. Okay. You do not need to write down 28.9%, 32.3%. Be really careful with that, students. In task 1, your goal is not to write a lot of these percentages, okay? The examiners don't want to see you writing 28.9, 33.3, 33.6. It's too much, okay? They don't want to read that. They want to read clear description, okay? You're not just reporting like a computer, okay? An expository essay is explaining the information. It's not just a descriptive essay describing the information. That's the difference, okay? Zaid says 2-person household percentages rose from 28% in 1970 until it reached around 31% in 2015. Zaid, you're not looking at a line graph. Careful, okay? What you're writing is only if you're looking at a line graph, all right? Charlie Sen says, from these 3 pictures, it is clear that roughly 1/3 of total residences are dual occupancy households. Yeah, okay, that's not bad, sure. Yeah, so you've got 1/3 in there. Jitendra says 2-person homes are roughly 1/3 of the residences of the total in the U.S. population in all periods. Jitendra, again, careful with information mistakes. It's not UK, it's not England, it's US, United States. Be really careful, students. Those kinds of slip-ups will cost you band scores, okay? Young says, in detail, the percentage of two-person household increased from 28% in 1970 to 32% in 1990, and slightly rose again to two-thirds of the total population by 2015. It's not bad, Young, so you're making the years clear. It's okay. But again, don't get lost in too many numbers, all right? Don't get lost in too many numbers. It's okay to do numbers now and again, but not for every sentence. The reason I wouldn't do numbers, and this is my logic here, so if you're really going for those high band 9s, band 8, band 9 scores, the reason why I don't do percentages here is because all of these are very close, okay? There's only a 4%, 3-4% difference here. So these are all about 1/3. And the reason why I don't want to do percentages here is because I'm going to do percentages here. Because in my second point of comparison, there's a clear change in the percentage, okay? So I want to report numbers when there's change. When there's no change, I just want to report it as roughly 1/3, roughly 1/2, close to 1/4, slightly over 1/5. So using those words, keeping it simple. When you have change, that's when you want to go into a little bit more description of percentages. Does that make sense? Okay, I'll make a note of that for you so you remember it. Okay. This is where we're getting into those nice high band score strategies. Okay. So here's a tip. Okay, keep this in mind. Don't write specific percentages when the data is similar. Instead, write 1/2, close to 1/5, and so on, okay? Use percentages when there is change, okay? Now, even when there's change, you want to use your vocabulary like doubled, tripled, okay? If you can, all right? So use those. Okay, so let's report number 2. This is 17%, okay? And you can round. So here you have 17.1. Just round it to 17. Here you have 24.6. Just round to 25 or 1/4. Okay? This doesn't matter, all right? Here you have 28. Exactly. Okay? So write your second sentence. Okay? That's for single occupancy. So it's one person, or single occupancy. Okay? That's your vocabulary. Zaid says 1-person type homes were less than 1/5 in 1970, but it was around 1/4 in both 1990 and 2015. Very good. Okay, Zaid, I love it. I think that's a great description. Really nice expository writing. Okay, so yeah, sure. Absolutely. Especially when we have 5 categories, it makes a lot of sense to say less than 1/5, close to 1/4. Sure. You can use the word close to 1/4 when it's a little bit below or above. Okay, a couple percent. Some really nice writing, Zaid. You get a super thumbs up for that one. All right, I'll borrow your sentence. Okay, so single occupancy homes were less than 1/5 in 1970, but they were close to a quarter of the total in 1990 and 2015. And if you really want to get fancy and report on data, you can say 17%. Please do not write percent over and over again. Use the symbol. 25% and 28% respectively. Okay? So that could be a good sentence. All right? So here we go. Looking at the 3 years in more detail, dual occupancy homes made up roughly 1/3 of all residents in the U.S. in these years. Single occupancy homes were less than a fifth in 1970, but they were close to a quarter of the total in 1990 and 2015. 17, 25, and 28% respectively. Okay? You're getting a band 9 if you're putting sentences like that together. It's a fifth or 1/5. Both are okay. Nidhe is asking a very good question. So Nidhe is saying, is it 1/5 with a dash or is it a fifth? A fifth and 1/5 are the same. Okay. So a fifth is the same as writing 1/5. Okay. There's synonyms. Good question. All right. And definitely for pie charts, you're writing proportions. Very good. Okay, students, good job so far. Really nice questions. Fantastic. Okay, let's move on to point number 3. Jane, definitely write digits, not the full words. Yeah, Jane, good question. Don't write things like 15 or 17. So don't use the word, use the number. Okay. All right, so third position, most interesting, is single person. Okay. Or sorry, 5-person. 5-person. So it's the largest occupancy. It's 5-person. 5-person here is 21%. It's 20.9, but we can round up to 21%. Here it's 10%. And here it's roughly 10%. So I bet you can now come up with a very clever sentence if you think about this previous one, okay? So thinking about the previous one, I bet you can come up with a super smart sentence for this one. Note, Sandeep, a sixth does not mean 30. The sixth would be closer to about 15% or 18, okay? Happy Singh, however and moreover are not the same connectors. However is opposition. Moreover is addition, so careful, okay? However and moreover, not synonyms, Happy Singh. They're not synonyms, okay? However would be okay in that sentence, but not moreover. All right, so while you're thinking about the 5-person homes, I'm going to write that sentence. So, furthermore, just using connecting words doesn't get you a good band score. Using good information, that's what gets you a good band score. Okay? So if you have those words, you should use them. Okay? But it's not the connecting words that will get you the big band scores. The big band scores you get with good information reporting. Okay. Just going to adjust to have some correct font here. Okay. So sure, here I can connect the next one with furthermore. Five or more member households comprised. Okay, there's a nice word for you. Comprised is the single word to write made up. Okay, Here we still have our percentages, 21, 10, and 10, right? And I bet some of you are going to be coming up with the same information that I'm coming up with, and I can see that in the chat, so I'll get to it. Let me just finish. So furthermore, 5 or more member households comprised a fifth, or let's say 1/5 here, right? To paraphrase what I used before, a fifth of American homes in 1970. However, this ratio dramatically dropped to 1/10 of the total in the years 1990 and 2015. Now here I'm not going to write the percentages because they're so close to those actual ratios. So in fact, in 1990, it's exactly roughly 10%. It's 10.4%. So I'm not going to write 10.4% because 10.4% is so close to 1/10 of the total that I don't need to write it. That would just be repetitive. You don't want to have repetitive information. Okay. All right, let's see what some of you have here. So Charlie says the percentage of household that had more than 5-person occupancy is close to 1/5 in 1970, but in both 1990 and 2015, it's decreased to 1/10. It has decreased to 1/10. I would use the present perfect there to show change over time, Charlie said. Now, we can use decreased, but we have to be careful to say the years 1990 and 2015. Without that, it sounds like we're writing for line graphs, so be careful. If you say decreased, make sure you state relatively the year. Okay? All right, Zaid Nawafa says 5-person occupancy was 1/5 of the total in 1970 in USA, but it was half of this in the years 1990 and 2015. So Zaid, just at the end, a little bit correction, but yeah, you're right. It's half of the number in 1970. So half of the proportion or ratio. Careful, Zaid, with half there because the population of US probably grew in the 25 years, but it's definitely half of the ratio or half of the proportion. Okay. All right. Some good sentences there, students. Some good sentences. Okay, so now we've covered points 1, 2, and 3. Now we have point 4, 17.3, 17.3, and 15.5 for 3-person occupancy. And then we have point number 5, which is the 15, 15, and 13% for 4-person occupancy. Now, depending on how much time you have left in your 20 minutes and how quickly you write, you can keep these very simple, okay? Because there's very little change here. They're less significant in some ways than the other numbers. So you can keep these fairly simple, okay? Huang, you should definitely not use you and we in task 1 and usually not in task 2 either. So no, because Huang, that's called second person voice of the author, and it's not used in academic writing, okay? So you and we are not used in academic writing, Huang, okay? If you talk to an English professor, they'll say, yeah, that second person voice, be very careful when you use you and we. It's rarely used in writing. Okay, it's used usually in narrative storytelling. Okay. So here for task 1, we're using the objective third person voice, which means no I, no you, pronouns, nothing like that. Okay. All right, so I'm going to write point 3 and point 4. Young already has a good sentence. Young says, in contrast, 3 people and 4 people household remained relatively the same, roughly a fifth for both, for all of 1970, 1990, and 2015. Young, don't use from and to because it's a line graph, so you have to be a little bit more careful. Amardeep, it's not can we go over 150 words in task 1. You have to go over 150 words in task 1 because the question is asking you to write a minimum at least 150 words. So Amardeep, to get task completion, you have to go over 150 words, as I said at the beginning of the class, okay? So, 3 occupancy homes made up a substantial amount of U.S. households. Approximately the same in all 3 years at roughly 1/6. For person homes, paraphrasing as much as possible, were very similar, just 2% less in each year than 3-person homes. Okay, so notice how I didn't overcomplicate these. I compared one to the other. They're clearly both significant. I mean, it is 1/6 and roughly 1/6 for both, right? So if I go back to these, 17 times 6 is 102, right? So anything that's between 15 to 17 is roughly about 1/6 of the total, 1/6. This here for 4 persons is similar. It's just 2% less in each year, right? 15 is 2% less than 17, 15, 2%, 13, 2%. So 2% less than the 3-person homes, okay? All right. Okay, so far so good. Now I just need to write a summary. Okay, and the summary should be a very clear piece of information that we learn from the pie charts. What do we learn from these pie charts? What's a piece of information that after we've done all this analysis, we're like, oh yeah, look at that. We can learn something interesting here. And the summary should be 1 or 2 sentences. Hussein, you don't have to write the summary, but if you do, you're going into the Band 8, Band 9 range. So if you can, if you're quick enough and clever enough to get a summary into your task 1, there's a good chance you can increase your band score. Okay, and you're going to see why with this example here very clearly when we write the summary. Because the summary is a valuable piece of information that we learn from looking at the graphs. So what do we learn mostly when we look at these graphs? Okay, this is where you have to use your critical analytic thinking. Think about change and similarity. What do we notice about the change and the similarity here? Let's see if somebody comes up with it while I write it. Okay? Don't overthink it. So, in summary, when looking at the pattern in these years, it is easy to recognize that 2, 3, and 4 person ratios did not change much. However, in single and 5+ person residences, there were significant differences. Right? That's what we've noticed. Okay? Hopefully, we've learned that. If I'm an investor building homes in the US and I want to think about how many bedrooms I'm going to build, then here I will probably start building smaller houses because there's not a lot of 5+ residences. So I'm going to build fewer houses with many bedrooms, and probably a lot more houses with 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom because of those two. Okay, that's what I get from it. Now, careful not to write that. That's only if you're a businessman. But definitely that's what we can summarize. So there is our summary, our complete essay. I will post this on our YouTube channel. So students, I will put this essay on our YouTube channel community bulletin board. That's all the time I have for today. Thank you so much for your awesome contributions. Remember, pie charts are not line graphs and they're not bar charts. Remember to write correctly for each one. Learn the right ways, practice the right ways. Join us on our premium websites for the IELTS learning, aehelp.com for academic, gieltshelp.com for general. Okay, download our app, Academic IELTS Help. We will teach you the right strategies, not tricks, not tips that people don't really use, but the real strategies that we, the examiners, use on the IELTS exam, okay? That's how you do it. So make sure you visit our websites, check out our premium packages, and learn with us. Spend a couple dollars, save yourself a lot of time and headache. Bye for now, students. Much love to all of you. Tomorrow, 2 more classes for members chat. It will be question and answer session and speaking part 3 for everyone after that, same time. Bye for now. Much love to all of you.